Chris Sewall here, baseball card collector, investor, dealer in that order. Welcome everyone. About 3.5 months ago, I made a video looking at 3 hypothetical portfolios of sports cards and wanted to do sort of a test to see which would be worth more down the road. And wanted to test it out in 3 months and then again in 1 year. Well, it's now the 3-month mark, so we're going to go back, revisit it, and see which of the 3 portfolios is doing the best. Now, I included a link to the original video in the description down below if you want to check that one out first. But just to recap a little bit, the 3 portfolios were going to be one for vintage major stars, so players who are long retired. Another one for active established stars, but very established, so sort of in the back half of their career. And then the third was for some of the hot prospects of the moment. Each of the 3 portfolios consists of exactly 15 cards and had a total market value of exactly $2,500. That's as of July 3rd values when I did the original video. And the idea was to, spread it out a little bit. No duplicate players, include cards from all 4 major sports. Here were the 3 portfolios. You can see the vintage stars on the left includes, Mantle, Jim Brown, Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, Ken Griffey Jr., across all major sports, ranging a variety of years. Everything, of course, is graded, so it's easier to calculate values. B is the established stars who are in the back half of their career. In baseball, you have players like Mike Trout and Mookie Betts. In football, players like Aaron Rodgers and Travis Kelce. Basketball, LeBron James, Kevin Durant. In hockey, Sidney Crosby, Alexander Ovechkin, etc. And then C was the prospect players, players who had 1 full season in the bigs or less. Again, across all major sports. In baseball, there's Paul Skeens and Jason Dominguez. In football, you got C.J. Stroud and Puka Nacua. In basketball, Victor Wembanyama, etc. So again, the idea was if we had bought one of these portfolios on July 3rd for $2,500 and just held on to it, which would be worth the most 3 months later or 1 year later, just sort of as an experiment. My prediction for the experiment was that at the 3-month mark, portfolio B would be doing the best. That was the established players. And I asked everyone in the comments to say what you thought, and it was very split. A lot of people said A, a lot of people said B, and a lot of people said C. Definitely not a clear majority on any of them. So before we get into the 3 months results, let me just say real quick that this is just one 3-month window. It's only looking at 45 cards in total. So across the entire collecting world, it's a very, very, very small sample size. But I wasn't so much surprised with the results, but I was surprised at how clear cut the results were. Like there was one portfolio that clearly did better than the other 2, and there was one that clearly did worse than the other 2. And I guess I wasn't expecting it to be that clear cut, but yeah, we'll go through them one by one here. All right, we'll start with Portfolio A, which is the vintage stars, and here are the 15 cards in Portfolio A, and you can see they're all Hall of Famers, a lot of all-time greats in here. Old timers: Mickey Mantle, Jim Brown, Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, Bobby Orr, Otto Graham. Some rookie cards of players like Cal Ripken and Robin Yount, Ken Griffey Jr., Dan Marino, Kobe Bryant. So a nice sort of cross-section of all-time greats across the 4 sports. They're not all rookie cards. Some of them are, but a lot of them are not. They range from way back to the 1910s, although most are sort of in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s range. A couple cards from the 90s as well. So here were the values of the card as of July 3rd when I did the original video, and they add up to exactly $2,500. Here's a spreadsheet of Portfolio A, the 15 cards adding up to $2,500 in market value as of July 3rd. And as of October 15th, just a couple days ago, the current market value is $27.25. So this portfolio actually increased in value $225 over the past 3.5 months or so. That's a 9% increase. And you can see the column on the right, no card really jumped up a whole lot. The Jerry West rookie did go up $80, but even that is only about a 15-20% increase from its July 3rd value. Basically, everything stayed within about 10 to 15% or less. Of a change. 2 cards actually went down a little bit, the Jim Brown and the Wilt Chamberlain, but for the most part, cards all sort of crept up a little bit in value overall, and that led to a $225 net increase, which is obviously you'll take that. And just to state in case I hadn't already, all the values I'm putting on these charts are based on the average of recent sales of the card in that grade, with making some adjustments here and there if needed, if there weren't a lot of sales or not a lot of quality data to go off of. All right, let's look at Portfolio B, which is the active established stars. And here are the 15 cards in Portfolio B. In baseball, you got Trout, Arenado, Betts, Kershaw, Bryce Harper. In football, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, Travis Kelce. In basketball, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Steph Curry. And in hockey, Ovechkin, Crosby, and Steven Stamkos. Every card here is a rookie card, a variety of brands, years, grading companies, etc. Here are the current market values of the cards in Portfolio B as of July 3rd, and on the spreadsheet you can see it adds up to a total of $2,500. And as of October 15th, 3.5 months later, the total value of the portfolio was $24.65. So it actually lost about $35 in value, down about 1 to 2%. Minimal. Basically, you would probably call this a break even. The Steph Curry went up $80. That was sort of the big increase. And then for the most part, everything else sort of trickled down a little bit, or basically stayed the same. A couple other cards trickled up, but when you add it all together, it was a $35 loss in value on Portfolio B. All right, now Portfolio C. Here were the 15 cards in Portfolio C. The young stars or prospects, players who had been in the league 1 year or less. In baseball, it includes Jason Dominguez, Paul Skeens, Wyatt Langford, James Wood, and Jackson Holliday. Football, Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, Pwcc, and CJ Stroud. Basketball, Victor Wembanyama, Brandon Miller, Zachariah Risacher. And in hockey, Macklin Celebrine, Connor Bedard, and Brock Faber. Every card here is a rookie card or a pre-rookie card or a first bowman for baseball. Here are the values of the cards as of July 3rd. And two things to note. One, the Brandon Miller in the lower left I actually have wrong on the graphic here. It's more like $200, not $90. A couple of you pointed that in the comments. I appreciate that. I have it right on the spreadsheet, just had it wrong on the graphic here. And second is, this 3-month window is sort of interesting, right? Like all 4 sports kind of have a major change to their season in this window. Basketball, football, and hockey basically all, go into the start of the season or approaching the start of the season, whereas, baseball sort of goes from mid-season to the season being over. So in theory, it should help football, basketball, and hockey with their prices a little bit this window, whereas it should hurt baseball, but, didn't know if that was going to impact things or not. Just something to be aware of for this 3-month study. So looking at the spreadsheet, as of July 3rd, the portfolio adds up to $2,500 like the other two. And as of October 15th, 3.5 months later, it totals $1,940. That's a $560 loss. The portfolio is basically down 22%. So for me, there was quite a few, notable takeaways from this particular portfolio. If you look at the basketball and the hockey, which are the bottom 6 cards, none of those players played a game in this 3.5 month window. Those sports were in full off season and the season hadn't started. And those basically all stayed flat. 3 of them were didn't move at all. 3 of them were down a tiny bit. But it was the baseball and football where the players were playing games where the cards really, really dropped. I mean, all 5 baseball cards dropped notably. The football was basically down, with the one exception being Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams' card was the only card in the entire portfolio that actually went up in value over the last 3.5 months. But even players like CJ Stroud, who's having a great season, off to a really good start to the season, his card is down $70. I mean, it's down 25% or so from the July 3rd value. And while, again, this is a very small sample size, I do think it speaks quite loudly to the idea that young players, young stars, prospects tend to go down in value because there's just so much baked into their prices up front these days. And that's something I've discussed on the channel, many times before. Now, I'm not taking a victory lap or anything. I predicted B. I thought that would be the most valuable after 3 months, but, B was essentially a break-even portfolio. A, the vintage stars, slow and steady wins the race, I guess. And again, small sample size, so no significant conclusions to be drawn here, but I do think it's a notable data point just in terms of how, cards tend to hold their value over time. But that's it. Thank you everyone for watching. Like I said, I'll do another video at the 1-year mark looking at these 3 portfolios and where they're at, and would love to hear people's thoughts on this. Like, did this surprise you? Is it exactly what you were expecting? Is there any way that the experiment could be tweaked to make it better in any way or whatever? But yeah, really appreciate everyone watching. Eat your vegetables and see you again next time. Thanks, everyone.